watershed. Board policy number 7, item 4.2 says the district will maintain staff, equipment, and prepare and keep current protocols to ensure its ability to respond quickly and suppress fire on the watershed. How has the reduction of dedicated firefighters, MMWD Rangers, impacted this part of board policy number 7? Was the policy even considered in the reduction of Rangers? The other gorilla in the closet is the fact that the watershed is now a major recreational destination for 3 million visitors or more a year. I quote from a letter received from Chief Ranger Don Wick on September 2017. I have a total of 5 rangers who work here and generally only have 2 rangers and a deputy sheriff on duty at one time for the entire mountain and our outlying areas, consisting of 23,000 acres, give or take. Another statement from MMWD General Counsel Mary Casey dated May 11, 2017. In 1995, there were 12 MMWD Rangers patrolling in the watershed. In 2005, there were 8 MMWD Rangers and 2 contract Marin County Sheriff's deputies in the watershed. In 2017, there are 6 MMWD Rangers and 2 contract Marin County Sheriff's deputies on the watershed. And it should be noted the 2 sheriff deputies are not trained in firefighting. To continue, quote from General Counsel, regarding your request for the amount of time spent patrolling for wildland fire danger and code enforcement, watershed staff does not specifically capture that data. I leave you with these questions. Is board policy number 7 being followed? Are we doing everything we can to prepare for a major firestorm? If not, why not? And how is the new watershed fee being used? Is it all going to manage and fund the watershed? If not, why? We are in a climate emergency and we need to focus on how we will survive as a community during a difficult transition. I believe we need to raise the rates if we want a fully staffed crew of trained firefighters protecting our watershed. Thank you, Peter.
And there is a part of the current rate proposal does dedicate $1 million a year in increased funding for watershed safety and fuel reduction.
Will that be applied to increasing the ranger staff?
That remains to be seen when we go through budget, but there is an inquiry to staff to kind of weigh the cost of a new ranger versus sheriff.
And are you just swapping funds? Are you stealing from another program too?
I do not believe so. I believe that we will be increasing fire fuel reduction and fire maintenance on the mountain.
Do you consider...
Hold on a sec. We're limited as far as what we can do right now. So if you have more questions, just you can.
But I think, just to be clear, and I just want to say thank you for your comments. For items that are not agendized, we can't engage in dialogue. We can for items that are agendized. So I hope you'll stay for the later conversation because a lot of these questions will be answered then, and then we can engage in more conversation with you.
You can also call me too.
Hi, Valerie Hood from Fairfax as well. And I just, a little follow-up question on Peter's. I just wonder what a ranger costs per year, because that would be good to know. I'd like to briefly address one of the many problems with the rollout of 5G infrastructure. Verizon throttled the Santa Clara County Fire Department's supposedly unlimited data plan while the agency was fighting record wildfires that have burned over 1 million acres of the state. It's much more since this article was written. Verizon refused to give them more data unless and until they agreed to update their service levels. The MGSA, a local JPA, entered into a lease agreement in July 2017, granting Verizon access to Marin's 15,000 streetlights to construct a 5G wireless network. How do we think we will fare when the fires hit Marin and Verizon holds us hostage until we upgrade our service levels? This has never been dealt with. Even after this happened, still hasn't been dealt with. I know we're in the rainy season and we're not really focused on fires right now, but as I look around and I see the vegetation growing, I know what our fire load is going to be this year. So it's going to be worse than in a long time, I think. So I bring this up to make MMWD board members aware of this additional factor when you work on your fire plan and update this year. To follow up on a couple of things that Peter had to say, he sent this to me in an email and I asked him if there had been any response yet, and he said no, so I thought I'd read some of them tonight. Has there been an overall reduction in firefighting readiness and trucks on the watershed with a 50% reduction of rangers since 1995? How is the new watershed fee being used? Is it all going to manage and fund the watershed? If not, why? What is the post-fire response plan in the event of a large fire? What are the future plans for increasing or further reducing the number of rangers patrolling our threatened watershed? What happens to the advanced smoke and fire detection system if the fire goes out? And we know that with 5G, that's exactly what's been going on. How is the MMWD spending its new watershed fee? Is it being spent solely on the watershed? If not, why? And that's about it. There's a lot of problems with 5G actually with fire. It increases the terpenes of nearby plants. And you know what terpenes are, I'm sure. It's the fire solvent part of the plants. It also dries them out really quickly. So EMF not only damages us, it damages plants. So it's really important that this is focused on. Thank you very much.
And Valerie, we have a watershed meeting on Thursday afternoon, so just for your information.
Sure, thanks.
Hi, my name's John Sargent. I'm also from the People's Republic of Fairfax. And I have just a simple one for you. I'm here to suggest modification of your current policy on the way you charge for 3/4 inch water meters. And reading the material that Larry Bragman was so kind to provide me, it seemed to indicate that you were concerned about future demand on the whole water system because of the larger meters. And I would suggest that is not a proper way to do it. I would more suggest that you institute a program that actually measures usage of the people of these larger meters. And if they in fact are using more water, then maybe you could have a policy to charge them more. My own usage, well, first of all, why do I have a 3/4 inch water meter? I have it because my supply line goes up a very steep rise to the house. And in order to get adequate water flow, I had to put in the 3/4 inch meter. What about my usage? My usage for, I think if you check my records for the last several years, my usage is not only under the district average, it's also under my neighbor's average for water usage. So I do conserve, in spite of the size of my meter, I'm very conscious of my usage and tend to conserve.
John, I
yes.
mean, I hate to interrupt you. That is going to be the subject of our discussion about the Prop 218 notice, is meter size. So, I mean, technically in open time, it's for items not on the agenda. What you're talking about is on the agenda.
Okay, I'll just leave you with that thought, then. I think that's calling it pretty close, Larry, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll try to keep this really quick. I agree with everything that Peter said about the ranger issue. So I also moved here when there were 12 rangers on the mountain in the late 1990s. And I know how important rangers are. Recently there was a government shutdown and we saw what happened to national parks when people are allowed to run roughshod over their parks. And I don't know the exact numbers, but we're seeing greatly increased recreational usage of the mountain right now. And it just seems surreal that there would be a discussion of reducing the ranger load. The word on the trail is that one of the two sheriff's deputies might even be not replaced when one of them, Chris, is rotated out. And that would reduce our 6+2 to 6+1, when we should really be talking about increasing the ranger program. I don't have to go into statistics about the 22,000 acres and the, you all know those statistics. And all I can say is that I know you care about the mountain just like we do. I mean, I spent 8 months of my life making a film about the rangers, holding them up to this like very high idea, like these are the people who protect our watershed. And it just makes me cry to know that the budget isn't there to support what the mountain needs. I mean, we're all here to protect the mountain, and I think we need to put our money where our mouth is. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Whelan, and I am an employee at the Water District. I run the school and the volunteer program at up on the watershed. But I am also a customer of the Water District. I live in San Rafael. My husband and my son and I are lucky enough to live in San Rafael. And I just wanted to tell a quick story of something that happened 6 weeks ago. We were home on a Sunday, and my husband noticed water bubbling out from the sidewalk in front of our house. Very strange. There was also water bubbling out of this half-broken pipe in the sidewalk across the street from our house. So immediately I called MMWD. I called the controlled dispatch. This was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Spoke with Matt, and he said that he would send someone out. 25 minutes later, Francisco shows up. He opens up the water meter box. It's in our sidewalk. It's full of murky water. He said, "This is not MMWD water. This is sewer water." So that gave us a bit more alarm. But he said, I want to double check. But he called in dispatch, called them back, and then he got out some fancy equipment and listened to the street and made sure that yes, it's the San Rafael sanitary district issue. So Control then called the proper people at sanitary district to come and take care of this. 2 hours later, the sewer water is now coming out of our downstairs bathroom and flooding the first floor of my house. So I call the sanitary district. The sanitary district on the weekend is not open. It says call the San Rafael Police Department. So I called the San Rafael Police Department and talked to the dispatcher there. And I said, hi, gave her the address. And I said, there is sewage bubbling out of my bathroom and flooding my house. She's like, oh, no, I know about that. I called Roto-Rooter 2 hours ago. I said, yeah, that was 2 hours ago, and it was in the sidewalk. It's now in my house, so this is a new issue. Okay, she puts me on hold. She gets back. I just talked to Roto-Rooter. They won't give me an updated time. They said they're on their way. 2.5 hours later, Roto-Rooter shows up, and they put their snake down the manhole down the corner of the street, and the flooding of the sewage that has now completely filled my first floor of my house stopped. And then a gentleman came about an hour later from the sanitary district and handed my husband a card and said, not our fault, here's my card. But it took them 4.5 hours to come, and this was Roto-Rooter, not San Rafael Sanitary District, who then called the police department, who then called Roto-Rooter. MMWD was at my house in 25 minutes on a Sunday. Also then our insurance said, we don't know if you're covered. The sanitary district saying it's not their fault. So I asked the MMWD dispatchers, do you have a recording of when I called you and when you called, tried to get a hold of the sanitary district? Yes, we do. I handed that over to my insurance. My insurance is now fighting with the sanitary district and is going to pay. So I don't know how much the sanitary district is now going to have to pay to, my whole first floor has been ripped up down to the studs, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just here to caution against filling positions that are crucial to this district with contractors. The folks that I work with at the Water District are extremely skilled people. People stick around here. There's institutional knowledge. We care about what we do. We care about this organization. There's only 250 of us. It's a really great size. I pretty much know everybody. I've been here for 10 years. Contracting out is not going to save us any money. It is not going to make us any better for this community. So I thank the people that I work with and that their response on a Sunday afternoon was so swift.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Suzanne.
Thanks for your story.
I think we're down to 240 on employees.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Shadon. I live in Tiburon. I also work at an East Bay water district that Ben worked at. And I'm not talking about your proposed discussion this afternoon, but just about a few things in terms of rates in general. Not everyone in this community on a fixed income will have the nice retirement that Ben has, that I will have. They are on fixed income. So there, in terms of rates in general, not having some kind of an avenue for them to stay here in Marin, to stay in their homes, to not have to face a parcel tax or any other type of rate increase just seems really unfair. I'm not in that situation, but I care about those people. I'd also like to know why the district doesn't have, it is a great district with very responsible employees, but there doesn't seem to be, in terms of water waste, there isn't any type of punishment or fees levied. I see my neighbors watering their cars. The school district, the Reed School District, has a backflow preventer that's been leaking for over a year. All of the neighborhood, the Bel Air neighborhood, has called about this water just running down the street, and what we're told by this agency is that it's the school district's problem. We've called the school district, they don't fix it, they put a fence around it, and we still have the water everywhere. So there doesn't seem to be any way, any avenue for you all to keep track of abusers. This really needs to be thought about in addition to thinking about those on fixed incomes. And I'm hoping that the public will have time to make comments on the proposed water rate increases. I will say that what I know, that I work in water distribution planning right now, is that meter sizes are not always having to do with the fire department asking you to have a fire service. It sometimes has to do with low water pressure. And so you'll increase your service lateral and your meter. So I can wait to say my next statement for the next, if we get a chance to talk. But there's a lot that goes into the water meter size that the public doesn't have a choice in. And now to ding people because the fire department has requirements is not fair. And I'm hoping that you all will discuss in the future how to really get water wasters, and to make them pay their fair share. There needs to be some type of avenue for that. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Hello, Eric Morey from Woodacres. I'm here once again to urge you to stop financing Mary Casey's culture of fear and intimidation here at MMWD. I would like to remind you once again that your general counsel, Mary Casey, that's her sitting right there, whose 2017 compensation was $349,609, spent at least $250,000 in ratepayer money in an effort to prevent me from attending these board meetings. As you can see, it was not money well spent. I'd really like to know how much pipe you could have replaced with that much money. Apparently, money is no object when it comes to maintaining Mary Casey's personal Gestapo at MMWD. Apparently, maintaining your crumbling infrastructure comes in at a distant second. For example, Mary Casey spent $33,400 of ratepayer money to fly in a $375 an hour New York psychiatrist named Robert Weissman, who operates as a hired gun at his one-man company, Psych Tech Services, which he runs out of his 4,000 square foot home near Rochester. Among Mr. Weissman's charges to MMWD ratepayers was $2,347 in round-trip airfare from Rochester. If you check online, the most expensive round-trip flight is listed at $1,369, and the lowest is $700 for a flight that leaves tomorrow. That's a $1,000 markup. I would have to wonder, did you charter a flight for him? For his 25 hours of travel time, he charges almost $10,000. On one day, he charged $3,000, and another day, $1,300 for some items that were totally redacted. We don't know what he did for that money. Now, every ratepayer in this room should be asking themselves why Mary Casey spent over $12,000 in travel time to fly out a psychiatrist from New York when there's probably at least a few qualified shrinks right here in Marin County. It turns out it's because Mary Casey's police state is also a cottage industry where overpaid professionals can make some easy money. It turns out that Mr. Weissman's lady friend is Bobby Lambert, who's also a member of Mary Casey's Gestapo. She runs another hired gun company called Confidant that contracts with MMWD. She made $38,457 for her part in this scam, and she helped her New York friend Robert Weissman make some quick cash, $33,000 and $33,400 at our expense. Now, this is not an isolated case. Your management bureaucrats here at MMWD are corrupt and looking out for themselves instead of the ratepayers. Please tell us why we should give you more money when you are squandering the funds from your last rate hike. It is way past time for the board to provide oversight, accountability, and transparency. You work for the ratepayers, not these crooks. Thank you.
Next.
Larry Minikis. I'll try and be brief. I back up what Suzanne said. I back up what Peter said. I've worked with the district now for nearly 30 years, probably 27, 28 years. I've worked with a lot of people here, great people. It's really a pleasure to interact with staff, with the district directors. I just want to make that point. I also want to make a point about the Rangers. And you can correct me if you like. It is true that we had about 12 Rangers in the mid-90s to the late 90s, and that we had 6 fire trucks, 6 Class 6 fire trucks. And for the benefit of the audience, these are the ones that a Ranger can take out into the field. They're smaller, they have a hose, they hold water, they're rapid response sort of trucks. We're down to 2 of those now. And those are 6 or 7 years old. And then we've got 2 fire engines. And those fire engines are 30 years or more old. The reason we have this situation is because we've had people coming before this board, every time we've tried to get a decent rate increase, fight you guys and say, no, we don't want it. You're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. And they're using all the dog whistles, pensions, this and that. And that's why we're in the state we're in right now. And it's really important that for the benefit of the community, that we protect the watershed, that we have decent fire protection. We're missing that. We are not meeting policy number 7. We're not meeting 4.2. I read it myself. I agree with that. Please, we need far more for the watershed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody else that wants to make any comments in open time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close open time.
Larry, just for clarification, the folks in the hallway have asked for just a little pause to make sure that they don't have any additional comments.
Okay.
From the hallway.
Any of the outliers want to come forward? Okay. All right. So the next item is Director and General Manager's announcements. Do we want to start with?
I have none.
And I have none tonight.
I have a brief one. The state legislature is taking up a bill, AB 533, that I just wanted to inform the board and staff about, and of course the public. AB 33 is sponsored by Representative Holden from Southern California. It would exempt water rebates issued by utilities for water use efficiency and green infrastructure. So the first hearing was yesterday, and I just think it's an important bill for utility like ours to be aware of. And I'm sorry, full disclosure, my nonprofit organization is sponsoring that bill. So I will not be involved in any decision this board does or does not make about it. But I think it's an important thing for everybody to know.
And that's AB 533?
AB 533, Holden.
Holden. Okay, very good. Jack?
I have none.
Ben?
And I have none.
Sorry, Larry. Ben?
I have none tonight.
Okay. Okay, so seeing we're done with that, we're going to go to the consent calendar. There's 4 items. I've asked staff to give I would ask the board if we could pull item 3 and have staff give a brief presentation about that, just because I think it's relevant to what we're going to be discussing tonight. So,
Sure. Do we need to do any sort of a vote on that, or can we just? Okay.
So, if we could hear that report right after we get done with consent. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item 3?
Yes, with that amendment, I move that we approve the consent calendar, the remaining items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, very good.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Quintero,
Aye.
Director Kohler,
Aye.
Director Gibson,
Aye.
President Bragman.
Aye. Okay, let's move on to item 3. This is Carl. Carl, could you please explain what this item involves?
Thank you, President Bragman. Carl Gowan, Principal Engineer Operations with Marin Municipal Water District. This is for the rental of a temporary emergency generator at the San Geronimo Treatment Plant. And it's miscellaneous agreement 5682.